Good morning and welcome to Church at Home with Rachael for Wednesday, the 8th of September. This morning I'm in Civies because I'm heading off to my very first clericus meeting in the Diocese of Edmonton. It's my first clericus meeting in probably a year and a half. I went to a couple of them via Zoom when I was in the Diocese of Ottawa, when we lived in Round Lake. I think I made it to one or two before we had to shut down for COVID, but it's been a really long time since I went to Clericus, and since it's in Edmonton, I'm going in Civies. This evening, I'll be back in my clerics because we're having our community gathering, a community information night at the community center here in Wainwright, and the church has a table. We've got a display ready to go to share who we are as the wee parish, the parish of Wainwright and Edgerton, St. Thomas and St. Mary's. And hopefully for those of you who live in the Wainwright or Edgerton area, we'll see you out this evening between 6:30 and 8 o'clock. But today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about our intent and what is our purpose, what is our goal. I've been thinking a lot lately about, I think because I am an introvert and I deal better one-on-one, or better yet by myself. And I think there's probably quite a few priests. It's an odd vocation to get called to, but many priests seem to be introverts. We have this ability, or this more comfort zone being on our own than being with others, and yet we're called to serve others and be with others and speak publicly and things like that. God has a great sense of humor. And one of the gifts of COVID for an introvert is that you didn't have to put yourself out there. So really, for the last, even before COVID, because living in Round Lake, I was on my own at the lake. My stepson slept a lot, and Rob went to work, so spent most of my days just by myself with the dog and the water and the loons and the ducks and the turtle and the beaver. And so I haven't had a lot of interaction with people over the last 2 years, and today is the first day I'll be meeting with a group of people that I have never met in person. I think I met one or two of them the day we went to Frog Lake, but it was just a real quick sort of, hey, how are you? This is who I am. And I'm nervous. I'm a little bit nervous because, all the new things. How do you go and meet new people? How do you present yourself? How do you do your thing? My experience with clergy is that sometimes, and I'm just as big a problem with this as everybody else as others are, but like the sort of the competition thing of, my church is bigger than your church, or I've been ordained longer than you have. For those who are active in my clericus, who aren't retired, I think I have got the most time in. I don't think I'm the oldest, but I think I have the most years ordained at 22. But I certainly don't have the biggest parish. I could argue that I have the best parish, but I don't have the biggest one. But I've really been thinking a lot about the basics and who we are called to be and what we're called to do in the church. There's a lot in the news lately about Indigenous peoples and residential schools, and there's a lot in the news because of COVID and the arguing about vaccinations and the rights of people, their rights and freedoms. There's also been a lot in the news in the last while about social justice and interfaith things, the Rosh Hashanah, and we talk about the different things of our Muslim communities and things like that. And those are all things that I believe are important. They are essential, that they are our brothers and sisters and siblings in creation. And we need to understand each other better. We need to be able to enter into dialogue that is not about proselytizing or changing someone's mind, but simply about understanding and finding common places where we can come together and have those conversations. That's really important. But at the same time, I am a Christian and I am an Anglican priest, and I am called to serve Jesus Christ, and I am called to live for Jesus and to share Jesus with others. And I'm finding I'm getting a little distracted from that. It seems like that's not the purpose of church anymore. I spent many years in Halifax at St. James sort of trying to thump that point, that trying to encourage people to pray, trying to encourage people to think about their faith, to encourage people to really pay attention to who they are as Christians. Pardon me, Dude's decided he might eat his breakfast, so if you hear some munching, that's him eating his kibble. And then having a year off in Petawawa where I was focused on my own stuff and worshiping in some beautiful little churches while we were allowed to worship together, where it was very much about community and coming together, and then dealing with COVID and how do we maintain a community during COVID, online, things like that. But I'm wondering, have we forgotten the point? Have we forgotten Jesus Christ? I have been concerned about this clericus meeting and about this event tonight at the community center. How am I going to represent myself at clericus? I'm nervous. These are people I don't know. They've known each other for years, and I'm the new person sort of butting in and trying to find my space. Tonight at the community center, I will be standing at a table trying to share with people the good news that St. Thomas and St. Mary's are going concerns, and people are welcome to join us. And it occurred to me when I was putting together the display that what I've got there is, I've got posters talking about our truth and reconciliation, calls to action, and our study starting next week about how we do that, and people are welcome. I've got a little bit of advertising for Church at Home. There's some advertising about our church services, a brochure I put together, copies of the Anglican Journal and the Messenger. But none of it's about Jesus Christ. In all of that, I didn't take the time to highlight what it is that we are supposed to be doing when we gather for church. Yes, it's about community, and especially right now when we're just sort of coming back and having to put masks back on and sort of doing this dance around so many cases of COVID, and are we safe, and who are we, and how do we gather together? But at the heart of all of this is Jesus Christ. And it feels like somewhere along the line the church forgot that the church is so focused, or becoming so focused on how do we maintain church? How do we regroup and hold on to our community? That we have forgotten that we can't have a community if we are not centered around Jesus Christ. I've been so worried about, clericus, and I've been so concerned about tonight and the ministerial that was supposed to happen tomorrow that we've had to cancel because of COVID, that I haven't been thinking about the purpose for clericus, or sharing the good news about the parish in the MD of Wainwright, or getting together with other clergy from different denominations to talk about how we might serve our community. In all of that, I laid aside or stepped away from the central point, which is Jesus Christ. To share the good news of Jesus Christ with others through church, through clericus, through ministerial, through sharing it intentionally when we gather with other people from the community. What's happening? Am I the only one who's feeling this? I feel like the church has stepped away from our purpose. That we need to get back to basics, and the basics are talking about Jesus Christ. Yes, community is important, but community can't be more important than the person around whom we create community, and that's Jesus himself. So some thoughts I have. I've got a 2 and a bit hour drive, 2 hour and a bit drive to Edmonton this morning, and then back home. So in that time, I think I'll keep the radio turned off and do some praying and some thinking and reflecting on where Jesus Christ is in my life. Because until I find him in mine, I can't share him with clericus or ministerial or my congregation or the community at all. So I invite you today to look for Jesus in your life and find some ways to make sure he's front and center. Have a great day. God bless you, and may your time with Jesus today be filled with peace and hope. And I will see you again tomorrow with Church at Home with Rachael.